Hello, I'm Chloe from Choco Mallow Cocoa Bakery, and today I'm going to be showing you how to buttercream ice a cake. So you're going to need a couple of the things that we've already been through in the previous tutorial. The first one is the cake leveler and slicer, and this is what we're going to use to cut through the cake. The second is the cake scraper, which is this one. You're also going to need your spatula and a cake, of course, but also some buttercream, but I will show you how to make those in another tutorial. Okay, so you're going to take your cake leveler and we're literally just going to slice through the cake, just holding the back of it to make sure that we don't get any crumbs pulling out and half of the cake pulling off at the back, which believe me can happen. If you don't do that, you might see what I mean if you when you go to cut yours, but just like rest your hand at the back of it, and that's the easiest thing to do. And once you've done that, you will find you have a perfectly level cut cake. So the next thing is to glue your bottom half of your base actually onto your cake board. This bit does get a little bit messy, so excuse all the crumbs. This is why it's called the crumb layer. And we're literally just gonna stick a little bit of buttercream on the base and then just squish the bottom part onto the board, which will just stick it nicely and makes life a huge amount easier when you're then trying to put the rest of the buttercream on. So this bit, you can either put the top part of the cake that way round so that you've got like a really crisp edge, but I quite like my cakes to have a bit of a softer edge, so I tend to put them that way round anyway. But also when you're buttercreaming, it means you don't peel away loads of the crumbs and end up with a big mess. So that's personally how I do it. So the next step is to fill the middle of your cake with your buttercream, and we're just gonna literally spatula it all on. If you're doing a really big one, you can fill a piping bag and pipe this in the middle. Just gonna place that on here, and then you're gonna squish it down a little bit so that it's on there nice and firmly. And then we're literally just gonna keep applying all of the buttercream into the cake and filling in any little gaps and air pockets that you can see, any imperfections in the cake. So I'm just going to keep working this in now and keep moving it around. And at this point, if you can see cake underneath, it's not a problem. That's the whole point in the crumb layer. So it's really not an issue at all. And then once you've done all of that, we're going to pop it in the fridge for a couple of hours. Okay, so whilst that other cake that we've just done is cooling in the fridge, here's one I made earlier. You're going to know that it's going to be ready to have the second layer of buttercream, because you're just going to, if you just touch the top of it, you can see that there's nothing coming off on my finger. So that basically means that it's all firm and set and ready to put the final layer of buttercream on. Again, using your spatula, you just want to get like a nice thick layer around the edges. It doesn't have to be perfect at this stage. As you're dragging the spatula around the cake, you kind of want to almost flip it from side to side, and that helps get like a really, really smooth finish. And when you're pretty happy with the fact that you've got it completely covered, we're just going to take your side scraper or your scraper tool, and I'm just going to drag it around the sides of the cake, and that's going to give you kind of like the really nice flat sides, which is what you want on a cake. Otherwise you're going to have topsy-turvy sides, which is not going to look good, especially if you're selling them. And then once you've done that, you can just use this, because it's quite a nice big flat blade anyway, just to pull in from the edges of the cake, which means that you get really nice soft edges all over your cake around the sides, and then just scrape it over the top until it's kind of pretty much flat on top. You can, at this point, if you're going to be using this to stack other cakes on top of, you will want like a dead flat top on your cake, so you can end up, you can use a leveler and things like that to make sure that it's perfectly level. But I'm just making a birthday cake today, so I would actually prefer to have it slightly domed on top anyway. And I've just stuck my finger into it as well really nicely, so I'll just try and cover this one up. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this cake now, so I'm just going to pop it in the fridge and wait for it to chill down, and then it will be ready to do the next step, which is putting on the fondant icing, which I will be showing you in my next tutorial.